I believe in miracles.
Don't say people. I'm doing business here, man.
I don't want anybody tells you words and ideas can change the world.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
90% of what you're saying ain't coming out of your mouth.
From failing, you learn. From success, not so much.
Keep moving forward.
Welcome to the Small Business Miracles Podcast. I'm Jeff Randolph. This small business podcast is brought to you by EAG Advertising and Marketing. We are going to talk about marketing. We're also here to celebrate entrepreneurs. We have marketing news and advice that business owners can use to keep moving forward. This week, we sit down with Dr. Cokethea Hill. She is the founder and CEO of BLAQUE KC. You want to tune in for her. But first, we've got another small business marketing tip that we could talk about. So let's do that. For today's tip, I'd like to start with The Princess Bride. You know, that movie. They're breaking into the castle, and Wesley says, "What I wouldn't give for a Holocaust cloak."
What I wouldn't give for a Holocaust cloak.
So Andre the Giant, okay, Fezzik, if you want to go that way. It's tough not to see him as Andre the Giant. Fezzik whips one out of his pack, and Wesley says, "Well, why didn't you list that among our assets?"
Why didn't you list that among our assets in the first place?
When you're planning for your marketing, it's important to list out all of your assets in the process. That's where we can get really creative. And a SWOT analysis is a good way to put all of that information on the board so we can stare at it. So a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A lot of us have had that kind of in our background, in our educational background, as we were learning about marketing. SWOT analysis. Put all of those things there. List out all of the strengths. List out all of the weaknesses, all of the opportunities, all of the threats. That way you can take a step back and stare at that. Really think through all of your assets. Do you have a relationship with a celebrity? Do you have a relative who owns a printing company? Does your staff all have a TikTok channel that with a bigger following than your company page has? Can you write? Are you good on camera? Any of those things that may come into play, list that out. Whatever those things are, list them among your assets. Then, as you plan, you're drawing creative lines between and among those strengths and opportunities in your SWOT matrix. That's if you don't have all of those things listed, your matrix and those connections can only be as good as the assets that you put in there. Give it a try. List all of those things out. Then you can draw some creative connections and make sure that you're really seeing the whole picture. That is our marketing tip. Hey, welcome back to the show. I am joined by Dr. Cokethea Hill. She is founder and CEO of BLAQUE KC. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First, some definition. BLAQUE KC, that's an acronym. Black Leaders Advancing Quality Urban Education. A grassroots movement of parents and teachers and young leaders and advocates unapologetically focused on improving educational outcomes for Black students in Kansas City and beyond. So, man, that's everything you would ever hope it would be. That's great. For those who don't know, introduce us to BLAQUE KC and your mission.
Well, awesome. Thank you. So prior to starting BLAQUE, I've had the privilege of serving Kansas City in a number of ways. I was on the Kansas City Public School Board. I've served on the City Council. I've worked for the Kauffman Scholars. And so I've been in and around education for about 20 years. And my last stop before starting BLAQUE KC was working for a collective fund that made investments directly in schools to improve the outcomes. And what I noticed is that even though there were a lot of investment and a lot of energy, it wasn't coordinated, and we were not seeing the outcomes of Black kids significantly improve. And so BLAQUE was a way to be unapologetic, to disaggregate data by race, and to foster conversations and collaboration so we can tease out like what's happening in our schools to which Black students are getting the short end of the stick in terms of academic outcomes. So BLAQUE was formed. We're a 501c4. Many people might not know that. We're a nonprofit, but that C4 designation allows us to engage in the political process by endorsing candidates and supporting them for elected services on boards.
Yeah, well, let's talk even more about the elected services on boards, because we were just joined before we hit record. Michelle Markham was here. Michelle, of course, is the CEO owner of EAG Advertising and Marketing, where we sit at this very moment, and she is also involved heavily in Academy Lafayette, where she just drafted some board members. So tell us about you created a concept to improve outcomes by by drafting people to serve in board positions. Give us a little backstory of that draft and how that came about and what you're doing.
Sure. Well, in our public school system, we have our traditional public schools, and those school board members have to be elected by the people that represent that school district. But charter schools, which are tuition-free public schools, their boards are appointed. So the members of the board get to vote for candidates to join their board. And I think in around 2019, there was an article by KCUR that says, hey, even though our classrooms are becoming more diverse, our school boards are largely white. And we understand that representation does matter when you're making decisions about schools, about kids, about families. And so in 2020, I think 2023, there was this talk about Kansas City getting the NFL draft.
Right.
So I had this idea. I said, oh man, before the draft, there's so much excitement in Kansas City about the NFL draft. Let's do a charter school board draft. And it's similar just to the NFL draft. We recruit schools that serve as teams, and then we open up an application and we ask folks that are interested in joining a school board to apply. There's an interview process, and then once we create the pool of candidates, the next 4 months is really about them learning the educational landscape, meeting all of the charter schools who have signed up for the draft. We do a school board speed dating round. They have a chance to tour the schools. They learn about the charter school landscape, academic achievement, and really we spend 2 or 3 days doing a deep dive in school board governance. We know that it's not just about getting on the school board, but do you know how to govern a board correctly? And so that 4 months culminates with draft night, which is hosted at Arrowhead. It's a high fashion event. It's a plated dinner, but it's a lot of fun. And so up until that moment, the Black team doesn't know who schools will pick.
Yeah.
The candidates are not sure what schools will pick them. About 2 or 3 days before the draft, the schools go into a lottery. So that helps them determine the order of their picks. And we do that close to the draft so that they actually meet every candidate. If you had the number one draft pick, you would say, I'm going to find my candidate, and I may not be engaging with all the others. So we wait until the end. But it's really a lot of fun. Schools love it. In 2022, we placed 15 candidates on 12 charter school boards. 100% of those candidates were still serving in 2024. And then we just placed 18 candidates on charter schools and 1 candidate on a nonprofit board. Because nonprofits are like, hey, can you do a nonprofit board draft? So we're really excited about the support we've been given.
And you're not just finding people off just as at a restaurant. You're finding people who are amazingly qualified and just needed to be pointed in the right direction to serve and to give back. Like these are talk a little bit about some of the kind of candidates that you're bringing in.
High caliber candidates. So we interview our schools and we ask them what profile of a board member, what gaps do you have on your board? Most will say real estate, finance. Everyone needs a lawyer, right?
Sure.
So lawyers are always top billing. Some folks might say, really, I want an entrepreneur. I want someone in DEI. I want someone who understands social emotional learning. So we take those profiles. We actively go through our networks. We post it publicly. But in 2015, we had 2 municipal judges. 1 judge is now a federal appointed judge, Artie Bland, who's serving on a charter school. We had Melissa Johnson, who is at the time was the deputy counsel for the mayor's office. She still works in the mayor's office. We've had Terrell Jolly, who is an entrepreneur who works to in incremental redevelopment, so going into neighborhoods, turning homes that have been abandoned around for families. Just high level folks.
Terrell Jolly, you can go back and listen to his interview on our podcast.
Yes.
You bring in good people for all of this. This is amazing. And it isn't just the high caliber of people where you're bringing people in. You're also training them to be a good board member, provide good governance. Like this is the whole package is everything you're doing. Man, this is an exciting event.
Yes.
Let me ask also, because there are many things that BLAQUE KC does. Your 6-week summer freedom school. Tell us about that. It's an innovative program that's changing lives one child at a time to address literacy.
Yes, literacy is such a huge challenge, not only in Kansas City, but just around the country. When we first started BLAQUE, what we did is we said, let's do a data exercise. We pulled school district's annual performance report card. That's the annual assessment that every school district takes. We looked at the state of Missouri, Independence, Lee Summit, Hickman, Center, charter schools, KCPS, and we disaggregated their data by race. And what we found is that for African American students, they're getting the lowest possible outcomes. I mean, it's just across the state, when we look at the state data, we know that when we look at eighth graders, only 28% of all eighth graders are on grade level. When we think about math, that's 25%. Only 3 in 10 Missouri students are on grade level with reading. So we said, hey, what can we do? We know that school districts and schools are often challenged during those summer months. There's not a lot of funding around out-of-school time during the summer, but we also learned in the research that when kids are not in an enrichment program, they often have what they call summer loss, right? So all of that good investment that teachers are pouring in around literacy, if you're not engaged during the summer actively reading, you sometimes lose that skill. And so Freedom Schools, Kansas City had a rich history. Kauffman Foundation funded Freedom Schools for about 10 years. There were 20 different sites, and it went away. And so we said, hey, let's bring it back. Freedom Schools is an evidence-based national model from Children's Defense Fund based out of D.C. We brought that model here. We had 50 kids last year. This year, we'll have 150 kids across 2 sites. And so we're just doing our part to make sure that we're helping schools and communities really push for literacy so our kids can have better outcomes. One last thing I'll say about Freedom Schools is the unique model brings college students from all around the country, but particularly for us, we recruit kids that are from Kansas City with ties in Kansas City that are in college coming home. They serve as teachers. So you have that near peer where kids, elementary kids, 1st through 5th grade, are able to look at a college student that looks like them and say, oh man, I want to go to college. I know someone who's gone to college. And just that affirmation, it's just a really great program. We invite you to come over this summer and check us out.
Oh yeah, everyone should do that.
Yes.
And participate. If you ever get a phone call from Cokethea, please take that phone call. Answer that phone call. You're helping everything.
Yes.
What's next for BLAQUE KC? What do you have in the pipeline? What that you can talk about? We don't want anything before it's time. But what happens next?
So we spent our first 3 years really working to build a culture of advocacy, working with parents to understand pathways to access quality schools. I know you had Leslie Kohlmeyer on here.
Yes, we did.
So Show Me KC Schools is one of our partners that helps families navigate, but really building their advocacy muscle so that they can talk about what are the needs that their kids have and how to effectuate change. And so that was great. We placed people on school boards. We've been doing school board governance, but really we want to impact like the in-school factors. So over these next 2 years, BLAQUE will be using our dollars, our resources to invest in schools that want to improve school quality. We'll be helping new schools that want to start in Kansas City. A lot of people will talk about these niche models of schools that we don't have here, but we have around the country. And so we will be investing in creating cohesion in our K through 12 system so that we can improve quality outcomes for every student. So we're excited about that.
Man, as well you should be. Leslie Kohlmeyer, by the way, may have contributed. First, she described you as a force.
Thank you,
let's just, and tremendously accurate. But she also may have given us a question for the lightning round.
Right.
If you're ready, I'm going to put you in the lightning round.
Take
Are you ready
for water?
Yeah, just be ready. Prepare yourself mentally. You have no way to know what might be asked in the lightning round. You are exploring some innovative ways to support the reimagination of education through the metaverse.
Yes.
What do we know about education in the metaverse right now and kind of where that's going?
So listen, I have a 10-year-old and I have to pry his device off of him. The Oculus, kids are just in a different imaginative space than we were in. And so we said, well, hey, we're going to go into the metaverse, and we created a library. It's a literacy metaverse. Kids can put on their Oculus, be with their friends, walk through, pick a book, have a book read to them, or they can play competitive games all focused around literacy. So we are super excited to dive into the metaverse. And when you go to our website, we'll create a link to allow more folks to get in. But for this summer, it is just for our kids in Freedom School.
Oh man, that's an exciting place to be exploring. Even that's good.
We think we can Zoom teachers in to actually have class in the metaverse. So we're going to try that in After School Academy because teachers want to spend time at home with their families. They don't necessarily want to work on a Saturday, but for 90 minutes, getting in the Zoom, getting on the headset, being in the metaverse, teaching. So we'll see how that plays out.
Oh man, well, best of luck. If it's anything like all of the other things you've had your hands on, it's going to be an amazing success. What's the best business advice that you've gotten? Because you started out and you've had to cobble a lot of things together. When you look back on business advice you've gotten as an entrepreneur, what would you say is some real solid advice?
I would say two things that have been super helpful to me is always knowing my why. Why am I in this space? Why is this work important to me? What is it that I want to achieve? And how will this space be different because me or my business or my network of colleagues got invested in it? That's one. And the second thing is always do temperature checks. We do temperature checks with communities, with schools, with families to help us co-create what are the best innovations and things that we should bring back to our community. So those are two things that have helped me through success and challenges, remembering my why.
Oh, that's solid advice. That is great advice to have no matter what. What part of the business do you wish you knew more about or you wish you could make more progress in?
The part of the business that I wish I knew more about is there are a lot of resources for entrepreneurs, but when you're in the nonprofit space and you're starting your own organization, you're kind of in this mix where you're not truly a nonprofit that's established. You are starting an organization much like an entrepreneur, and I wish I would have known about benefits packages or how do I create the retirement plan. You know, we've learned that. We got really great consultants, but those are just some things that you never imagined that one day when you start something that only you have this burning desire in your heart that later, 2-3 years later, you have 5 people or 10 people. And so you have to take care of people. As much as we take care of our kids in our community, our staff at Black is important to me, and I want to make sure that they are better and they leave financially better in a better position when they came to Black. So I wish I would have known more about that.
You start this journey as an entrepreneur because you have a lot of passion and you want to make some change happen, and you're like, I'm going to take that on and I can take that on. And you don't realize at the time that also means you have to have a working knowledge of human resources and marketing and accounting and everything else that goes into it. So, and
marketing is so key. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out. We have a great director of comms that does TikTok and LinkedIn and all those things, but so much of the good work that you do, no one knows unless you market it.
Unless you tell somebody.
Unless you tell somebody, so that is super important.
Well, it seems like more people are hearing about it, so I'd say there's some good work happening there. Here's the next question. If you were a Golden Girl...
Oh, I love the Golden Girls.
Which Golden Girl would you be and why?
Do not judge me, but I would be Blanche. I love Blanche. I think Blanche is self-confident. Blanche goes for what she wants. She's unapologetic in who she is. I love the Golden Girls. And if I was not going to be Blanche, I would be Sophia. Because Sophia tells really great jokes. She does slick digs. She's wise. So, yes, I'm a Golden Girl fan. Somebody must have told you.
I'm not saying Leslie Kohlmeyer helped with this question at all, but that may be the best question ever. I like the idea of Sophia as well because, you can say whatever you want to somebody and you still have the charisma not to get punched.
That's right.
That's a win in my book. I'd like to ask how you celebrate a big win. Like when you get that report back about how many amazing people were at the school board draft, or you just finished that event, or something like that. How do you celebrate a big win? How do you stop and mark that time?
I could get better. I'll be completely honest with you. I am always thinking about the next thing that even my team tells me, hey, sometimes you have to sit back and say, yes, this is great. And I think for me, it's usually I'm running a bath, sitting in a bubble bath, having a glass of wine. But I struggle with that. I really do.
Because it's always on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
And when you're so close to it, even like, say, the draft, I'm thinking about the million little things that I'm like, I should have done this, right? That nobody else experiences.
Right.
Everyone says it's better. But I think that it is really important to stop and celebrate because it is fuel to keep you going in those tough seasons. But I'm always like, okay, we did this. Great. Check. List the next thing. Okay, great. Check. What's the next thing? So I can work on it.
And especially as you have staff, like it's good to hear that your staff even says, "Hey, let's celebrate for a second.
That's
let's
right.
pause." And if your staff tells you that, listen.
I do.
You know?
I do. Oftentimes, what we've done is we take spring break. We have 3 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's.
Ooh, nice.
And so I like to reward the team with time away from work. That's probably the biggest thing. We enjoy lunch together. We do retreats. But for the most part, I say step away. Like, you've got to have work-life balance. Some people say that there's no such thing. There's just life. But this is not your life. It's a part of your life. It certainly shouldn't consume all of your life. So take a break.
And if you can come back and be that much more energized and that much more recharged and ready to go for the next round, that's a good way to go. You've made it through the lightning round.
Woo-hoo!
There's nothing else I'm going to ask in this lightning round. So tell people where they can find you. Where can they get more information? How do they get involved?
Yes.
How do they become the next board member that's recruited? All of those things.
Yes.
Where do they go?
Well, the next draft will be in 2026, so you have some time to get ready. But follow us, all of our social media handles, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, is at BLAQUE KC. That's at BLAQUE You can definitely hit us up on our website at blaquekc.com. And just stay tuned. We have so many exciting things in store. And so I hope that you follow us. I hope that you come to some of our events. And I hope that you send us, notes of encouragement or criticism. We take both because we really want to be the best interest of the community.
Man, when Michelle Markham walked in and said, "Oh yeah, no, we got a new board member from that event," and she's thrilled about it. So you're doing some very good things and some right things. Dr. Cokethea Hill, founder and CEO of BLAQUE Kansas City. Thanks for being with us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And that is our show. Thanks to our guest, Dr. Cokethea Hill, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Miracles podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review, drop us a line on the website at eagadv.com if you have any questions. Until then, we're going to be out here helping entrepreneurs with another Small Business Miracle.